What's up, friends? Welcome back. Hey, let me know if everything's sounding good, looking good in the chat today. Wherever you're watching from, maybe drop that in the chat as well. Excited to have you here for another Friday live stream. Good morning. If it's morning where you are, it may not be morning. Well, come on. Why is my chat not loading? Go back over here into H2R and disconnect it, reconnect it. It's always something, friends. Please check my YouTube API key. Oh, goodness. From Ghana. Hey, how's it going? The music is good. Thank you. Select a project. What's up, Josh? I'm trying to get this going so I can get you your comments on screen, fellas. My YouTube API key is expired. Let's see. Create a new one. 10 seconds. Hey, this feels like a Sunday morning, right? When everything's messing up. It's all good. I don't know where to paste you. Settings. Data sources. API key. We're getting there. Just a second. All right. Done with that. We're going to try this. Getting close. Okay, we're connected now. Let me see. Hey, it's working. It definitely does feel like a Sunday morning. That's right. Come on. Just restart the countdown. Nobody will know. That's right. Hey, greetings from Germany. also. Hey, great to have you on the live stream today. All right, let's get this party started, friends. Hey, we're also live on Instagram. Let me check over there. We got 4 people hopping on. Thanks for hopping on Instagram. We're doing a little test of that one today. All right, here we go. It's all about appearances. You just smile through the chaos, right? Well, welcome back to another Friday live stream, guys. It's great to have you on wherever you're watching from in the world. I know we got people from all over the states hopping on this morning. We got people from Ghana. We got people from Germany. And it's so cool to be able to get to do this with you guys every month and just, you know, help sharpen each other up and make each other better, connect with each other. And hopefully today you'll get something out of this live stream. If you're watching on the replay, there will be timestamps in the chapter markers below that you can hop around and go between. But today I'm super excited because we have a good friend and someone who I've entrusted to help us at our church with all of our upcoming AVL upgrades. Daniel Connell with DC Pro LVA is going to be hopping on in just a moment, and we're going to be reviewing a few of your live streams that you submitted. If you are hopping on right now and you did not get a chance to submit your live stream, you can still do that in the link in the description of this video. And just so you know, there are like 17 already there in, you know, on deck waiting, but there is always that fastpass super chat opportunity. $10 gets you to the front of the line. So if you're a late submitter, you can I can be bought. I just want you to know I can always be bought, and it's pretty cheap, $10. Come on. So yeah, I'm excited. It's been a great month since we last did this. I think we did this before Easter, I want to say maybe. So, and it's been a lot. We've packed a lot into the last month. And so later on, we'll kind of talk through some of those things. But right now on the live stream, I want to welcome to the Friday live stream, Daniel Connell of DC Pro. How is it going, Daniel?
Hey, man, going great. Thanks so much for having me. I got to tell you, as a person that doesn't really do Sunday mornings at a church anymore, my palms are sweaty. Just watching it there at the end, I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. This is what this feels like. So
that's right.
Good job there, pulling it together.
Thanks, dude. It's always something. You know what? I had a vlog that I recently put out where it was about basically nightmare fuel, the things that fuel my nightmares. And most of those are always the countdown is ending. There's like 3 minutes left and everything is going wrong. So I don't know if you've ever experienced any really horrible things like that at events.
I used to, oh man, we can talk stories if you want to, but no, I used to have those same nightmares, and it's funny how fast you go back to that. Like I'm hearing in my head as I'm watching you do stuff, like I'm hearing, hold Andy, don't send the worship team out yet, you know, and I'm going, I'm in my office, what's going on here? But no, it's like, it's almost like PTSD for our industry. When that stuff starts coming back, you just get triggered. So definitely good job. Yeah, man.
Well,
yeah,
it's great to have you on. If you guys don't know about Daniel, I just want to share a little bit about his company, DC Pro. Can you just share a little bit about what you guys do and maybe your history with the church and how this all came about? And I'll kind of scrub through some of y'all's previous stuff.
Yeah, which this is a reminder how bad we need to build a new website. But I'll try and do the quick 5,000-foot view. All I've ever done is production. I got started doing lighting in middle school. In fact, I think, yeah, it's still back there. This is literally this side. My lighting console from middle school is sitting on this desk behind me back here, kind of a little keepsake. But I spent the first decade of my career in the touring industry, out with bands. As with a lot of people, that wears on you after a while. And 2006, I got an offer to come work at this church in Tulsa, Oklahoma that I'd never heard of called Church on the Move. And, 2006, I know that probably for some of y'all that you may have not even been born yet, so it feels like ancient history. But what was interesting is church production then is not what it was now. Now if you start a church, part of that conversation is cool. What do we need for PA? What do we need for lights? How are we going to do this? What's the style of our stage going to be? And that just didn't really happen that way back then. So church production, it wasn't like it was unheard of, but it was definitely in its beginning stages of becoming what it is now. So I'll be honest, I wasn't sure I wanted to do it. But I felt in my heart it was what I was supposed to do. I can look back at it now and very much see that it was the Holy Spirit guiding me to step away from it. And I honestly thought it was a career-ending move, and it ended up being exactly the opposite. Church on the Move was the just well, lack of a better way to put it, a godsend for me. Came along at the perfect time, allowed me to really be in an environment where I could explore my creativity there, work with other amazing professionals. Whit George, who's now senior pastor, is an amazing creative director. Andrew Stone, who's unfortunately no longer with us, was my best friend and how I ended up out there, and just a world-class audio engineer. So I was there for close to 10 years and just got to do some awesome stuff. And then only left because we weren't really focused on big production anymore. And I felt like I'd kind of done what God brought me there to do. We'd built up a great team below us. And, for those guys to continue to rise, I kind of needed to step out of the way. So I stepped out in 2015. I knew I wanted to start doing my own stuff again, but the vision of what DC Pro is today still did not exist at that point. So I went back to what I'd done before, which was just being a freelance designer. Through the 2015 to 18-19 range, really kind of running right up into the pandemic. I got to work with awesome groups like Bethel, Church of the Highlands with their Motion Conference, some of their live album recordings, Willow Creek, Christ Church of the Valley, Mosaic Church. I'm trying to think I'm sure I'm leaving out a ton of great ones here, but just got to work with some awesome ministries all around the country. And that was wonderful. But what I started feeling is I'd gotten used to working with a team at Church on the Move that was so amazing. And I just realized I'm shaking my desk there. Sorry.
You're good.
I should know better than to lean on the camera riser. Got to work with such a great team at Church on the Move that when I went back out freelance again, and I would bounce from project to project with different teams, you don't get to build on those same capital gains. And there's really a reason here. I'm emphasizing this. And, I don't fault young guys in the church that kind of want to get out and do bigger things, but I think when you start in the church and then go out freelance, you don't understand that value of having the team around you that you get to repeat with every single week and build on lessons and build on gains. So I noticed that was kind of missing from my life, and I was not, my quality of my work was not improving anymore because I didn't have the people around me supporting me doing it. And I went, well, how do I do that? Well, I've got to be able to hire people to make a team. Well, as a freelance designer, you're not going to generate enough revenue to start hiring people. So I went, okay, well, I grew up working at a lighting company where we sold things, we rented things, we did projects for other people. Let's start to explore that idea. So my wife and I kind of formed this version of the company in, I think, 2018 or 19, end of 2018. And we hired our first full-time employee in January of 2020, which is a live event company. March got pretty interesting when suddenly we saw everything shutting down. Thankfully, we had God's favor and guidance and wisdom through all that. And we went into the pandemic with 3 employees. We came out of it with 12.
Wow.
I hired my 18th a couple weeks ago, and it has been an awesome few years of just getting to work with ministries and even non-church related clients in a whole new environment. I kind of feel like I'm on my 3rd career here, just in the same industry. So,
wow,
that's kind of the long version, but hopefully, yeah.
No, that's cool, man. Yeah. Well, if you guys have any questions for Daniel specifically, today we're kind of focused on lighting, but Daniel's involved in all aspects. It is interesting, that your name is DC Pro LVA, like kind of showing your emphasis is lighting.
Yes.
And then video and audio. So today we're kind of focused on lighting. If you guys have any questions for him, drop them in the chat. We'll see if we can get those going. I think a lot of people, if you're like me, probably came across Daniel from his first initial stuff with Church on the Move back in the Seeds Resources days, and hearing some of his thoughts on lighting positions. And I was like, man, this guy really knows what he's talking about. This is interesting. And it's so cool getting to know you more. And my first experience with Daniel, I feel like it was maybe like 7-8 years ago. I somehow just got your contact info. I was like, could you come give us an idea of what we should do in our church? And just like no cost, guys. Like Daniel and his team just came out and walked around our worship center and brainstormed with us. And little did I know that here we would be in 2024, finally getting to partner on a project together and the remodel of our worship center and all that stuff. So I'm grateful for the way that you continue to like give back to the church community overall, the big capital C church. So that's what we're doing here today. I'm excited. You ready to get into one of these live stream reviews? All right, cool. Well, we are going to start with Mission Bible Church, and this is from their Easter service. They submitted a live stream and also gave us a couple of behind the scenes pictures here of their setup. And this is their room looking out from stage. You can see they've just got some key lights here on one single rack that kind of goes around. And I believe we got one more here looking out from the sound booth towards stage. And so they've got some fill lights here on the sides, it looks like, for their audience, and then just some interesting stuff for effect lighting that we'll go ahead and look at. So we'll listen, watch for just a minute, and then we'll dive into maybe how we can give them some help. So here we go.
Gotta look back.
Let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. I'll praise on the valley and praise on the mountain. I'll praise when I'm short and praise when I'll praise when outnumbered and praise when surrounded. 'Cause my praise is the waters my enemies drowning. As long as I'm breathing, I've got a reason to pray.
Very cool.
All right, man. Let's talk through this. I'll kind of turn them down and just kind of maybe pop between some stills and stuff that we can see here. And initially, what's your first take on a church this size? The lighting you're seeing on camera? Anything jump out at you?
Yeah, there's a handful of things here. I definitely want to start with the positive because there's a lot of it here. I love how clean it is.
Yeah.
One of my things that a place where I feel like I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. Churches that maybe don't have professional staff, or honestly even some that do, but kind of churches of this size, one of the things I normally see them mess up on is they try and cram too much in there. They try and do too much with it. I love that we've got mostly kind of clean white lighting from the profiles. You didn't see it in that look, but there was another one where even the stuff on top was kind of just a nice clean white look.
Right.
And then they let that cyc in the background, which if anybody doesn't know what that is, when you have a white curtain in the back of your stage that you light with solid color like that, or just solid white curtain period, that's a cyclorama or a cyc. I love that they let that be the bold color.
Yeah.
I mean, it does look like they've got maybe some magenta or something coming from on top right now. I don't hate it. I'll say the effects they're doing seem to be timed appropriately to the music, which is a very, very important thing for me. Sometimes when people are just doing effects, but just to add energy, but it's not properly timed with the tempo, it can be very distracting.
Yeah.
I love, that side lighting in the audience you pointed out. I would love to know more from them about that.
Yeah, that was one of the
position.
things they asked a question about was like, how is the best way to light your audience? It looks like they've done those kind of side washes.
I'm very interested in that. I'll be honest, I've never seen that done that way, and it's very intriguing to me. I wish I could actually be in this room, or maybe I wish I could see a multi-view of some of the shots, some of the wide shots, because I'm gonna make a lot of people mad with some statements here real quick. I generally don't like color mixing house lights because I don't think that's the right position to light your band. The house light position, that top down is a great, or not, sorry, light your band, light your audience. That straight down top down position is a great way to provide utility lighting when people are coming in the room and exiting the room. But when you're trying to light them for video, that top down is just not a good position for a variety of reasons. Most of the time, like this is a great example here. You probably don't have, right there, if you pause if you can. So what the camera sees, and most of the time what the camera is going to see with your audience is the back side of them. And now granted, I don't think these people, Mission Bible Church, they're not using house lights as downlight here. But if they were, we would kind of see the tops of everybody's head, but we're going to be missing some light on the back. Or if you do occasionally get a front shot, you're going to see more of that, whatever that color is on people's faces, which color lighting on people's faces in worship can often not go in the way you want it to go. It's a weird vibe. So I always prefer to light from a back or kind of low back angle. It's a very common, easy thing to do in church environments is get some LED pars, hang them off rafters throughout the space, and light that way. Another great thing for that is another common audience shot is a reverse shot from the stage. This is almost this isn't quite a reverse shot. Obviously, this is a handheld or a fixed PTZ or something on the baptism. but as a good example, like pause here if you can.
Yeah, I'll go back.
All right. So what I'm seeing, if you look to the right of the screen about halfway, it looks like those are their audience fixtures right there.
Yeah.
If they were, I wish they were on. Like, I'd like to see them. Number one, I'd like to just fill in that dark spot there. And then I'd also like to see if they're hitting the crowd. In fact, those kind of look like little 2-cell blinders up there. Which
They do.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So, like, golly, can you bounce back and forth between this and what you just did?
Mm-hmm. I'll try.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get it.
And look at the
Another
difference
baptism.
in the people at the bottom of the shot.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost all these back here.
Yeah. So I generally don't use my audience lighting as part of dynamic programming for worship environments. Now, man, this is, I hate ever saying, number one, I don't have lighting rules. The minute someone says to me, here's the rule of lighting, I'm like, cool, let me show you how I can break that. Because everything that I've ever been taught as a lighting rule, at some point I've broken for good reason. So I don't want to say it's a rule that I don't use audience lighting in the effect programming or anything. But for a Sunday morning service, generally I don't. I like setting the tone and the mood, and also I like creating really good shots for video because I feel like that's where you're going to get more traction.
Interesting. What's your thoughts on color temperature for audience wash? Because it looks like those blinders can do either cool white here or warm white. So what do you think?
So to answer that, we're going to have to go beyond just what I think is the best color temperature for audience wash to just color temperature in general. Do you want to go ahead and
let's do it, man? I think that's a huge question. And on Instagram, a lot of guys were asking that. It's like, what's the best color temperature, especially as we're considering live streaming and in room? You know, how does that all work together?
So there is not a best color temperature. I can talk to you about what we use the most. I can talk to you about targets, and I can talk to you about what influences the choice of color temperature. But it's always going to change. Generally, in most church environments, I find us using around 4,500 degrees Kelvin. It's kind of that mid-range. I'm going to try and do a quick version of why color temperature matters.
Sure.
You know, cameras work a lot like our eyes, but not as automatic. So our eyes are going to adjust to the relative lighting in the space. When we go outside and see daylight, we don't see blue. It's just that becomes white light to us. When we come inside and we see tungsten, 3,200 degrees, 2,800 degrees Kelvin, it does not seem amber to us. Our eyes just adjust to it naturally. When you have two different color temperatures in the same space is when you can really notice the difference between the two, because your eyes are kind of going, wait, which one's white here? And it tends to become, you know, what is most prominent. With cameras, the way they are different, excuse me, sorry, we have to tell them what white is, and what is that white light. And then any light that is not that what we've told them is white is going to appear blue or amber. Sorry, guys, excuse me. Gotta love allergies in Oklahoma. It's gonna, you know, whether it's more cooler or warmer, it's gonna appear blue or amber respectively to the camera lens. So if we tell the camera lens that 5,600 degrees Kelvin is white, then 3,200 degrees Kelvin is going to appear very amber, and vice versa. Modern technology, LED moving lights, LED PARs, LED video screens, almost all have a native color temperature in the daylight range of that 5,600 to some as much as like 8,000 degrees Kelvin. So, and this is what a lot of people don't think understand. If I have a moving light, and when it's open white, just no color, if it's 5,600 degrees Kelvin, and then I put I color mix it into a full blue, that native color is still 5,600 degrees Kelvin. It just has blue filter in front of it now. And so if my camera thinks that 3,200 degrees Kelvin is white, then that blue that I see live is not going to look the same as the blue I see on camera. So one of the most common problems I see in churches is they go, our screens don't look the same as our stage. It's an issue with your color temperature and your white balance between your cameras. Every single time, that's all it can be. That's all it is. So when we are looking for what is the best color temperature to use in a church, if you took what I just said, you go, well, if the things in the background are 5,600 degrees Kelvin, then we probably need to use 5,600 degrees Kelvin. Here's the problem with that. It looks very dry, very white, very sterile to the native eye, in the live eye in the room. Not always. If you're at Saddleback Church in California, where you have giant windows down the space, then what people's eyes are going to be adjusted to is daylight. So you need to do your key light at daylight and keep everything at daylight. If you're church doesn't have any windows in it, then you need to look at something else. 4,500 degrees to 4,800 degrees seems to be that nice middle ground where it still looks good to the live eye. It still has some warmth to it, but then your background colors on camera are still mostly true to life. Not dead on, but enough where people generally don't notice. So this question started with, what's the best color temperature for audience lighting? The best color temperature for audience lighting is the same color temperature you're using for your key lighting on stage, so that your camera sees that as white light. A lot of people, well, let me even use this here's a prime example. When we did the remodel at Church on the Move, which was 2009, LED house lighting did not really exist at the time. We were starting to see some LED technology, but the whites we were getting out of it were absolutely horrible at the time. Color Kinetics was the big LED fixture manufacturer, the ones that actually made quality fixtures, the Chavez and the Martins and all those. They didn't really have LED fixtures out yet at this time. Dimmable fluorescent, quote unquote, dimmable fluorescent, because there's really no such thing, was present, and that's what a lot of architects were trying to use in performance spaces as a dimmable fixture. The problem is, if you've ever used a dimmable fluorescent, it's dimmable until you get down to about 5 degrees, and 5%. And then that 0 to 5% is this weird, clunky on-off. And if you have a lot of them, like you do, they don't all on-off at the same time. That's important for part of the story here in a minute. So when we got ready to do the remodel there, my mandate as the designer was to create a warm, inviting environment that allowed Church on the Move to do creative events in the fashion that they wanted to. The mandate for the architect was to create a energy efficient environment that was, good return on investment for the church and all that. So unfortunately, there's now a friction there. And I want to say the architect for this project was amazing. I still get to work with him to this day. I love him to death, so this is not a criticism of him. But he was pushing dimmable fluorescent. And I said, well, that's not going to work. And we thought about an LED option, but I kind of just needed to show them that wasn't going to work. And then I knew what would actually get us what we wanted was a tungsten style fixture that still had that warmth, because literally the statement from Pastor George, who was a senior pastor there at the time, was, I want it to feel like people are sitting in their living room. So we needed that warm, inviting feel. So we did a demo, and we tested all three fixtures, and I showed him the LED first, and he was like, well, this looks horrible in my skin. I went, yes, sir, sure does. And we flew the dimmable fluorescent next, and he said, well, that looks pretty good. I said, yes, sir, it does, but watch this. And I showed him the bottom of the dimming curve, and he goes, well, that's not going to work for the way we do events, is it? And I said, no, sir, it's not. And the third fixture was a Source 4 par, just ETC Source 4 par that we've probably all used at some point. And I dimmed it up to full, and he just went, oh, that's it, and walks out. So, of course, now at this point, the architect's livid with me because these are 575-watt lamps.
Yep.
Point of all this being, I'm sorry, I just realized that became a real long, drawn-out story for this point. Those burn at 3,200 degrees Kelvin natively. Right around that time is when we started also elevating Church on the Move's key light color temperature. So we suddenly went from 3,200 degrees before to about 4,500 to 4,800. There's a real contrast now between our house lights and our stage lights. So we suddenly had this problem of a camera shooting the stage, it looks amazing. Camera shoots out in the audience, it looks ambery. So I ended up having to come up with other alternatives just for audience lighting in that space to be able to control the color temperature of the audience lighting better. So, golly, I feel like I've spent 10 minutes on the same question. I love color temperature, and I'll talk about it all day if you don't
It's
stop
a huge thing when we talk about lighting.
It is. So I would say, when you're picking, if you're doing a new build and you're putting in LED house lights, make sure you're getting LED house lights with a native color temperature that you're going to use for your key lighting as well. I would not suggest going all the way to 5600K unless you have daylight already coming into your room somewhere. I would look in that mid 4000s range. Also, and I say this, and I don't care if you're using DC Pro as an integrator or using one of the other amazing companies out there, make them send you a demo. That's completely doable. This is such a big decision. Go, yeah, we want to see a house light that is in this color temperature to take into our room and put up on a man lift and shine down and actually see what it's going to look like. Because once you've committed to it, you can't change, and that's going to be the first impression of every single person that walks in your room from then on out, is that initial, like, how does it feel?
Yeah.
To me.
No, those are great thoughts about color temperature, and it really does get interesting whenever we talk about it, for our live streams, and then you throw a video wall behind you, and that's something you hear from a lot of people is like, the colors on the video wall don't look right. Well, it's because you're at 3200 or 2700 almost sometimes if you're just not even doing anything to them. And then it's that contrast. So it's a really interesting thought, especially when you throw in the house lighting idea. I hadn't really thought about that. We don't do a ton of audience shots, but for people that do, like, that's definitely a big consideration, matching all of those things. So let's flip back here to that live stream. And if you have any other thoughts as we scroll through, just throw them out there. Some things I noticed that I thought were interesting was I'm not sure why you guys are streaming at like what it looks like Cinema 4K, because you've got black bars on top and bottom. And with these Blackmagic cameras, I don't know if they're doing that for iMag maybe to fit those screens perfectly, but it's interesting for the live stream. It doesn't really give you, it gives you a little more width, but it cuts off the top and bottom, which is, I just don't know, it's not the native resolution of phones or TVs or anything like that. So that's interesting. I think their white balance on cameras looks great for their main shots. Their tight shots there. I think the energy, it's translating to me on video, like with the cut of this, I thank God, with the baptisms. I like how I'm interested when they're baptizing, I've seen them like kind of peek up, and I wonder if they're waiting to see if they're on screen before they actually baptize. She didn't. So I guess the video director's just having to like really watch it and be like, make sure you don't miss when they go down, because they stand there and talk to them. Have you ever had to direct that kind of thing before, or been in a service where you're doing live iMag with baptisms? I know Church on the Move doesn't really do that anymore. They do theirs in a separate room. And so I don't know. Okay.
We did a lot. And I'll be the first to say, I really appreciate you giving me the compliment that I specialize in lighting but no other things, but the reality is I don't. I've always been one of those guys that's just a master of one thing. It's amazing how little I know about audio and video considering how long I've been in this industry. But no, I've absolutely been on the lighting side of baptism services multiple times. We did an amazing one at Church on the Move, probably 12, 13 years ago, where we didn't tell the congregation we were going to do baptisms in the service. We just announced it on Easter, and it was a very similar setup to this. And I think that weekend we baptized like, it was 600 something or 800 something people.
Wow.
But yeah, hearing the comm chatter through that, that's absolutely a big thing for everyone. So something I just noticed here, I'm gonna change subjects slightly. Where I would pick on things a little bit here is the key lighting. There's parts of it I really like, and I think they've done really well. There's also parts where they can improve. And a cue I just noticed there, it looks like they're taking out the key lighting on the worship team. Or maybe that's not what the reason was, but for some reason the key lighting was going out. Maybe I have that wrong, but I would question that. To me, the most distracting thing you can do with lighting is to go from 0 to 1%. So it's turning it off or on. Like a lot of times if I'm going to bring a light back on, I don't go to 0. Like I'll go to 10, 20. I'll just, I'll use that dimming to change where the attention's focused, but not go completely out. So I'm curious why it went out there. The other part, key lighting I'm noticing is, and I think I saw the notes they sent. I think they even commented on this I think their key lighting is at a very steep angle. And a lot of times that's not something you have control over. And I will say that's one of my biggest gripes with architects that work with churches a lot is sometimes it looks like someone just goes, we'll just throw the lights there. And that just, when it comes to key light, there's no other thing in lighting for stage that is important to get the position exactly right as it is for key lighting. You can see in this look, like obviously his forehead is very bright, and we're completely missing under his chin and his jowl area and everything here. I would really like to see a couple things here, and some of what I'm going to suggest they can't do with their current setup, and I know why. So I'll mention that as well. I would love to see them use some kind of footlight. It doesn't need to be anything major, but a few years ago, I say a few years ago, it's probably a lot longer than that. Some guys, when budget was a major issue, they started just using variable white LED tape along the front edge of their stage as an uplight, a key light. Maybe they might take a little piece of the triangle crown molding to get it at the right angle. But I'd love to see some kind of foot lighting here. The challenge they're going to have is that big white cyc behind them, because even key lighting running low, you're going to see some of that in the background. Along with that, I would like to also see this live, because my initial reaction here is that they need to bring the intensity of their key lighting down. It seems too bright. We're losing too much in the background. We're getting too much of a hot spot on his head. But that could be on the camera side. It could be
Sure.
in the engineering, which is why I'd really like to see this live. The other part is I'd really like to see some side lighting in here in some way, not just on, like the pastor here, or I assume this is the pastor or presenter.
Yeah.
But, like stop here, pause here if you can. Can you go back like just a couple seconds? I don't know if you have the ability to do that easily. Right, anywhere in there is great. Look at his left arm, so on our right. You see that dark shadow there? I want to get rid of that. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't want to get rid of it. We experience shadows naturally in real life. You can look at either one of us right now and see shadows on us. So we're used to seeing shadows on people. That's what makes them look dimensional. In lighting, what we want to do is control those shadows. We don't want to get rid of them. We want to just have them, especially on camera, have them look the right way. He feels very flat to me. He almost feels like a paper cutout in front of that cyc. If we added a little bit of side light on him, that would make him dimensional, because that would now start helping bring him out from the background. Also, in the worship moments, for the rig they're working here with, I want to say I was very impressed with the quality of the key lighting on the main singers.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff going in the background, I feel like could be done better. I would love to see some side lighting on the band in the background. Not that I want them lit the way that the main line, the lead singers are. I like to light the background like scenery. So you do get you get layers in the visual, but notice right now it just doesn't feel like they're being intentionally lit at all. It's
Right.
like, I think it feels like they're just getting some bleed over from other things, and I don't want the focus to be on them, but like I want to see them more here. It seems like there's a dark hole behind everybody where everything just disappears, or even this setting. Like I'd love to know, like, why do we? I think it's great to probably turn that cyc off sometimes, but there's got to be something else there when we do. It's like some ground lighting. Like I love the movers on the side underneath the IMAX screens. I think that's a great position for them. I really don't want to tell them to take it away from there, because I love how wide that makes the stage look.
Yeah.
But it without that also upstage, it feels like there's this weird dark gap. And I want to say, in worship lighting, this is personal preference, but I believe I'm right here. It's always worked for me. One of our jobs is to focus attention on the worship team. Now, I've gotten pushback when I've said that before, of like, well, it's not about them. It's about, worship God. Yes. And the worship team is leading us all into that. So, the reason, well, it's about to go down another rabbit trail. The reason I think it's important for a worship team to be energetic, to dance around, to get into it, is because the people in the audience, very much like myself, that are going to walk in and not do anything unless I see the example. It's that energy, that movement, that getting into it. Part of that is to help pull the other people in the audience into that. You're not just leading us into worship by the words we're singing. You're leading us in visually. You're leading by example. That excitement, that energy is what we should in the crowd also be doing. So one of our jobs as lighting people is to make sure people can see that well. I mean, I think sometimes we forget that the first task, the first duty of us as lighting designers is to make the people on stage visible. Then let's add energy. Then let's add effect. Then let's do some cool stuff. But we got to see them first.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Those are great thoughts for Mission Bible. Hopefully you guys, can take that and glean something from it, and maybe make some adjustments for your live stream, for your in-house experience. The only other video thing that I saw is you guys have that like 20-foot jib that you're rocking, and a lot of times it's really shaky. So I'm not sure what kind of gimbal you need on there, but it's I thought it was a cable cam maybe that was having issues, but it's actually this shot right here. It can actually kind of be shaky and almost distracting, but I love the ability that you have to have that shot mixed in. That's really cool.
I'll say overall, I am very impressed with what they've been able to do with what they're working with here, especially what I read in the notes as far as what they've got. Very good stuff, guys. Obviously, there's places you can tweak, but very impressive.
Yeah, they're using a lot of really budget-friendly fixtures, some knockoff stuff, and just sometimes you just got to make it work with whatever budget you got. Absolutely. Speaking of budget, on Instagram, I asked people, what is your biggest struggle with, lighting in your churches? And the overall recurring theme I got was like, how do we, like, if we have limited budget, where do we even start? Like, what should be our priorities as we begin to make upgrades? Not every church has a sugar daddy that's like, hey, here's $100K, go do what you want with the lighting, right? So we kind of have to build the system over years. So for a lot of these churches and probably half the people that submitted said, we have no lights. I was blown away. And so the question really is like, where do we begin? So what would you tell those churches?
I would ask a question first, and I'd go, what is the mission of your church? And I'm hoping that all of them answer the same way. It's communicate the gospel of Jesus Christ to our community. Worship is important. Leading people into worship is important. Having the energy behind it, of course, all that is important. But the most important part is getting the message out. And so that means the most important part of what we do in the church is that message preached from the pulpit every weekend. So start there. That's not the most exciting, sexy part, unfortunately. People want the moving lights, they want the effects, they want the Grand MA consoles or whatever your flavor is. But those aren't ultimately the things that are going to accomplish the mission first. My good friend Daryl Sutton from Chavez has a way he talks about this that I think is brilliant, and I love to adopt it. But he kind of says, start downstage center and work out in circles from there. So the reason he says start downstage center is that's where your pastor preaches from. So do you have good quality lighting on him or her to make them look good on camera? And I want to emphasize here, it's not about making them look good for ego or anything like that. It's making them look good. People pay attention when there's not distractions of things like, why is that guy's eyes so dark? Why does it look dark under his chin? The natural side of us as people, when things are presented well to us, we pay closer attention. And I always look at it, I'm trying to make decisions based off how can I best reach the person that just walked into this church for the first time. So I want to present the pastor in a good way where he's, I don't know if this is the right word to use here, but just appealing, enjoyable to watch through the sermon, non-distracting, not walking in and out of dark shadows. It looks good on camera. So I kind of start there. That means good quality, front and back wash on that area. And then expand out from there. Once the front of the stage is lit well, is the rest of the environment good? I feel like churches often miss a step and they feel like they have to go straight to moving lights. Well, just color mixing lights, pars, battens, whatever that add color to a space helps create the environment. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is influence the mood and the emotion. I like to think of lighting for worship more theatrical than concert. So when you go to a play, you go to Broadway, the lighting designer doesn't go and start working on those shows and go, all right, what's the coolest, most energetic, exciting thing I can do? What did the other LD at, I'm lighting Lion King, but the LD that lit Chicago showed on Instagram, he's got this gear, so I got to have this gear. Now, the fact is the audience doesn't know. Our goal is we have to match the content from the stage. And very often what we need to do is just whatever that mood or that emotion coming from our worship team, we need to match that visually. Again, focusing on us as natural people, I think of this as the same reasons that we have padded seats and air conditioning in our churches is one of the reasons we have creative lighting on stage. We want to be able to kind of reach people. And the example I always use, I kind of touched on this a minute ago, I want to figure out how do I reach the person that actually doesn't want to be there. The dad who worked crazy hours at work all week, had a fight with his wife the night before, was arguing with his kids on the way to church because they were late getting there. He spilt his coffee as he was coming in, so he's mad about that. He just got to his seat, and he just does not want to be there. How do I crack that shell? And a lot of times we start with the natural person in that way. So if I use lighting in a way that just helps bring out emotion and maybe is a positive distraction from all the things he has on his mind at that point, where I get the mood right, I get the feeling right. And you don't need a bunch of crazy moving lights to do that. You can often just do that with color changes and washes in an environment.
That's cool, man. Those are great thoughts for people building out our systems in the right way and kind of the thought process. That I love the idea of that theatrical versus concert, because I think concert is usually what we just kind of are bent towards. But I love telling people when they ask me, like, why are we doing all this lighting stuff? Cameron Ware, who kind of did a lot of the environmental projection stuff. I loved how he talked about, like, cathedrals of old were built to draw your eye towards heaven and like inspire worship and all these things. And now we have these either black box churches or just very plain churches. And so lighting is like they're a canvas now for our lights, hopefully to inspire people and draw emotion. And we could go down a whole rabbit trail of like color theory and all those different things, but alas, we don't have time. Yeah. I do want to give a couple shout outs before we move on to the next live stream review that we've got planned. We have a few super chats that have come in. Thank you, City Church. We'll get to you after these next two. And then also Big Guy Camping says, thank you. Good morning from Australia. Submitted for review for Hills Church. Long time viewer there, Big Guy Camping. And then also Sample Stuff. Thank you. He says, check out the roller coaster build. I don't. We'll have to look at that later, maybe. So I don't know. That's interesting. Maybe they have a roller coaster literally in their worship center. I don't know.
I got to see this.
Yeah,
it's like Shields. Yeah.
And Dave Dolphin in the house with Practical Worship. Dave. He says, "Lasers, more lasers." That's always the answer,
we'll talk
right?
Later, Dave.
Yeah. DC Pro probably can get you some lasers if you want. You guys, can you give just some thoughts about lasers, like the 30-second, hey, you got to be trained thing?
Yeah, I'll talk about it from the technical standpoint and the design standpoint. It's a tool, and before you use it, you better make sure it's the tool you need. Number one, I've used lasers in a worship environment twice, I think. It was very fitting, and it was great for it, but not something common. Probably common knowledge, but yeah, lasers actually require a variance above a certain wattage. You can blind people with lasers if you're not careful. Don't get me started on this rabbit trail, because there's all kinds of technology I feel like the church has adopted without having the proper training and understanding to do it. And I pray constantly. I'm thankful that we've never had major accidents in a church that I know of, but I feel like we're getting closer and closer to it. So lasers are one of those things. I'll say I've been doing professional production for 30 years. I have a 18-person production company that is very knowledgeable and knows a lot of stuff. I will not touch lasers. If we need lasers, I hire someone else to come in and handle lasers. It's like pyro. It's its own thing. You need to be trained. You need to understand the variances. You need to know all the safety protocols, and it's just best to leave that to the people that specialize in those areas.
Amen. That's good.
There you go.
All right, let's move on to our next live stream review. We're going to go a little quicker on these next two, so let's hop into the Orchard Church. And I'm just going to say it up front, I was very impressed with you guys' production. They use a lot of Martin products and Chauvet stuff, and so let's just watch and listen here for a couple minutes.
Tearing down the lies that I believe, breaking through the selfish parts of me. Truth has come and set this captive free. Your love has opened up my eyes to see. Jesus, I'm yours. Forever I surrender all my heart. I see it now, you love me from the start. I won't forget the faithful God you are. I'm confident and covered in your grace upon grace. You cover us with grace upon grace. Come on, we sing it out. You wash away my guilt.
All right, as we kind of roll into that sky cam, what are you seeing here with their setup, Daniel?
There's a lot here I really like. It looks like they are working in some side light, or at least there's some stuff that is appearing to be that way. I love I don't know if that's LED tape or EPIX fixtures or Septrons or something underneath the screens.
It's LED
I feel
tape,
like-
he said.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a place people neglect a lot, but it's also a place we see on camera a lot because of side shots or slash shots. So having something to fill in that background of camera underneath your IMAX screens is often very, very important. I'm curious. I love that. That's probably a top light on the keyboard, but if it is, they've done a good job of the focus on that, just to make sure we still have good light. You've also got a little bit of warmth. I love they're probably LED fixtures, but the little multi-phase or blinder lights they've got low in the back. I love that because those will create a warmth that kind of just wraps light around your band and just makes it look really good on camera. That's a technique I've used a lot even before my church days. I use that on a lot of the concert tours, just blinders or any kind of DWE lamp, or nowadays it'd be like a most companies make an LED blinder of some sort. HAZE actually makes what's called a P38, which is a little single cell LED warm white blinder. And you didn't hear this from me, but there's a rumor that, we'll call it a rumor, that a full color mixing version may be coming out soon. I hope. Come on, Mr. HAZE, Albert, make that happen for me. But those are great for just putting around your band to light your band like scenery, like I was talking about earlier. There's something going on with their key light. I can't put my finger on. And I don't know if it's the key light. I don't know if it's on the camera side. This is one I'd be very interested to get into the room and talk to them. Getting your key light looking right. I didn't talk about this earlier, and I think it's very important. It's a team effort between your video team and your lighting team. It takes both coming to agreement on how you're going to do it. And so right now, what I'm seeing on video, the key light seems dim.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So I'm not ready to say that it is the key light. It may be the way the cameras are being shaded. It may be the lens choices. It may be something else. But I'd like to dive into that more and understand that. And even find out, like, there was a time where I lit my worship team very dim on purpose. We kind of called it the Hillsong days. It was kind of the style. So I want to emphasize this. I'm not here to tell anyone that their style is wrong, but that's my initial reaction. Is what is this what you're going for on the brightness of the key light is what I'd be curious about. The other part, and again, I don't want to come across negative, but I do want to point this out. I'd love to hear what the decision-making process behind the lyrics is, because again, this is a style choice. I'm very hesitant to critique style without getting to hear why that choice was made, but this effect there, that's distracting to me, even on camera, because I'm like that thing we just saw. I'm going, what is that? Why am I seeing that? Because I'm not hearing things in the moment that match that. And the other one is some of their effects I'm seeing are hitting on beats very well, and it looks really, really good. But some of the other chase effects don't seem to be matching the tempo exactly right. Again, that's hard sometimes. Yeah. There's certain songs where I've sat there and I've tried to program the tempo to work right for 30 minutes, and then just had to go, well, you know what, I'm not doing this effect because it doesn't look right. And that's always has to be, like, that last cue timed very, very well.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the effect going across the blinders right now, and it feels a little choppy. I think they said they're on a Vista, which I'm not the person to advise you on programming effects on a Vista. But if they could, for a song like this, where it's not, like, you've got a handful of really hard hits, but just during the normal verse and the chorus, it's kind of flowy. I would love to see the effects be more flowy, because right now I'm finding the effects to be a little distracting to me. Not horrible, like, I'm talking minor tweak. I do love that they're using their moving lights without a gobo in them. I feel like people almost always default to gobo. I love how punchy and impactful it is. I think they're picking a good effects and good focus positions for those, because it looks big and impactful on stage, but they're not murdering their audience in the eyes with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's okay if it calls for it, but that feels good. They're doing some movement effects that are kind of subtle, and I love that. I think sometimes, again, with movement effects, people think it either has to be stationary or be going crazy. And you can do just these very minor movements just to add a little motion and energy. I think they're doing a good job of that there. I love that cue where it brings down to the stage.
Yeah.
I will say,
key light looks better here.
It does. So again, I'd love to know, like, is it what's the choice? Like, I'm hesitant to really criticize their key lighting, because I almost feel like they're trying for something. I feel like they're wanting it to come across dimmer in worship. If that's the case, I feel like there's ways they could do that better. If they want to do that, if you want it to look dim on the front, you really need to emphasize your back and your side light on people, because, you know, people talk about lighting for silhouette for worship a lot. In the right moments, I love that, but silhouette means they're lit from the back and side. That doesn't mean you just turn the front light off. You know, we still have to see them in some way. Yeah, overall, this feels really good. There's little parts I could pick on, but it feels good. Feels energetic. Feels big.
Yeah, I think they're utilizing the tools that they have in their lighting kit really well. I think one thing that I always tell people when they ask me about lighting is building out a system that has multiple looks, so you can have different flavors to go to, and you don't just have one option. You know, whether that's a really warm Edison type style thing, or it's LED tape, like bright neon-y, like high energy stuff with movers. you know, and you can utilize that differently to create different moods and stuff. Man, I love their dactyl cam or whatever they're using there. Looks great how they're utilizing it. The cameras all seem to be white balance good focus.
The color looks really good.
Color looks really solid. What do you think about the key lighting aspect of backline? A lot of times, and I don't know, Will, if you can tell us if that's an LED wall or if that's projection. Is that one of the reasons you're not lighting people back there next to it? It looks like it's an LED wall to me, but what are your thoughts on lighting backline?
Yeah. So kind of recapping on this part, but I want to light them like scenery, which means I light them from below, I light them from the sides. What I don't ever do with backline is shoot them with a front light from out front, like I'm lighting the front with.
Okay.
You know, for lighting backline, I want to play with angles. I want to get creative. I want it to be a harsh side light. You know, with the drummer, I usually put some lights down in his kit because I want to brighten up that hardware. With the keyboardist, I do the same thing. I'll put a par underneath the keyboardist just to shoot the bottom of the keyboard, just to create some glow down there. And then those P38 fixtures I was talking about earlier from HAZE, that is my most common go-to for lighting bands for worship, because we put them in little stands, and you can just position them around them wherever you need to. This bass player here in the middle, what I would do with him in this environment is I would take one of those P38s and I would stick it off to his left or right, probably about 2 to 3 feet off the ground, where it's not in the video shot, you're not really seeing it too much in the camera shot, and just kind of sidelight him with that. That would make all the difference in the world, where he just didn't feel dark. And a lot of times that's it. We just have to be intentional with the lighting. We have to, you know, where it's distracting to me right now is it's like, well, I know he's back there, but he just looks like he wasn't thought about.
Right.
Wasn't considered anyway. I love this. This looks like mostly the keyboard and the drummers, great shots. I think it's mostly downlight from above, but they both look great. I'm just like, hey, what's wrong with Mr. Bass Player? Did he not, you know, tip the lighting guy this week?
Bass players are always neglected, man.
I know, yeah. Overall looks good. The other one, again, it's probably distracting to me because I'm a lighting guy and I look at these things. So I don't think the congregation really pick up on this. But the poor lady stage left with the glasses and the blonde hair, why is she not bright enough? Is she just not? Maybe she's not on her mark.
Yeah.
You know, maybe she didn't hit her spike mark. Maybe it's her fault. I don't know. But it sometimes you have lead worship leaders, and then you have, for lack of a better term, sub worship leaders, and there's environments where I don't like them the same. So maybe that's the case here. It's just that from the way I'm seeing the camera shots, and that doesn't seem to be the case, but who knows?
Yeah, that's interesting. And it also, I was just seeing, Will, if you can tell us, it looks like you guys have that same side light, maybe audience wash type thing going on that we saw in the last video. It's interesting.
I can't tell if that's it or if we're just seeing the lens of their house lights.
It could be.
Outside row of the house lights.
Yeah, it could be. I love that we can see their audience, that they're not just like this sea of silhouettes. Like that shot right there looks so good to me. It's not the same color temperature as their people on stage. You know, it's white. You know, they're very like bright white. But I love that you can actually see people engaging. They're using their camera shots well. I think you guys are killing it. I know Daniel said that the lyric video was distracting to him. That's a Life Church stock lyric video. What are you going to say?
I don't want to step on it, but the shot we just saw where they did a transition look where you just had that, I actually love that. It's that low wash in the background behind everybody. You know, if anything, I would pump that up a little bit brighter.
Is it just me, or do the blinders look a little yellowy because of color temperature on camera, maybe?
It's 100% color temperature because we're seeing 5600K from above. We're seeing 5600K on the LED wall. They do, okay, I'm seeing this now. They do have some kind of side light beside, to the stage left and stage right of the drummer and keyboardist that looks awesome. Yeah. But those are also higher color temperature.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet that these blinders are only warm white, which is fine. But environments like this, it's going to make it look contrasty. Like, I would love to dig in this one more. I want to know what their cameras are white balanced at. Yeah, that'd be very interesting to know. Yeah. Well, I think Orchard Church is doing a great job, man. Those are great thoughts to offer. One thing that this church is utilizing a lot of that I think we forget to talk about, and I think it's super important with lighting, is HAZE. Can you talk to us about HAZE, tips and tricks for distribution, your favorite ones to use on a budget, big budget, little budget? What do you think? I love and hate this topic all at the same time. First off, If you are a church that is not using HAZE, that's completely fine. You know, people are still going to come to Jesus without HAZE. I know that breaks some hearts out there, but it's true. If you are not using HAZE, then moving lights as creative lighting becomes less and less important. When I've been in environments where they say, hey, we cannot use HAZE in here, I focus on color washes and I focus on scenery. It's a different approach, but it works great. Hazers in general. I love HAZE. I want to use it in every church environment. I want it to be done right. I'm a diehard, unapologetic MDG Hazer fan. I'll also be the first to acknowledge they are the most expensive one out there for good reason, because they're absolutely the best. If you don't believe that, you're just wrong. But they're also well out of the budget of a lot of churches out there. I want to make sure I get this right. So MDG is amazing. I think it's Antari. Yeah, Antari actually came out with it. So let me back up. The MDG hazers, I've been using them since 2004, so 20 years now. They're a CO2-based hazer. So it uses a combination of haze fluid and CO2 to get the CO2 out in the air. One of the reasons they are the best to me is it has the finest particulate. And I know you may think, why does the size of the particulate? And particulate, I mean the little specks of material that create the haze in the air. It's the smallest. And we're talking, microns. You'd be thinking, why does that matter? And the only way I know how to show you is to have two side by side. It's almost, I'd call it high resolution haze. It looks more refined. It looks cleaner in the air. It also clouds a lot less. I get comments from people all the time of like, I turn my hazer on, but it just shoots this big cloud out on stage. Excuse me. And I usually have a couple questions about that. Yeah, there we go. It's one of our posts from this last week. So that's a MDG at me hazer, ATME. We love those. Got a ton of them in rentals. Great hazers. It uses that CO2 bottle. You don't have to use that external fan with it. We do that as part of our rental packages. You don't have to have the whole case and that thing to go with it. But it's also a very white haze. You may think, well, isn't all haze white? Actually, no. I don't want to talk about brands that I don't like, but there's another CO2-based hazer out there that was about $1,000 cheaper than the MDG that became popular for a while. But the haze looked blue when it came out. It had like a bluish tinge to it. And in certain environments, it almost looked like car exhaust to me. And it would actually change the color of the lighting because of the blue tinge of the haze. There was another one years ago from another manufacturer that was the opposite. It looked dirty. It looked kind of brown. So MDG has that clean white haze. Just accents the lighting real well. Also, one of the biggest issues with using haze in church is the 80-year-old lady on the second row that's going to cough every time she sees it coming out. That means that we really need to make effort to not see the cloud, because that's what triggers people psychologically to cough, is when they see a cloud and then we naturally believe, oh, there's a cloud of something in the air, I need to cough from it. So if we can make it where they just don't perceive that cloud at all, then we're going to have less negative response from people that don't like haze. Is it going to completely get rid of it? No, absolutely not. But it'll be less. I know this just from experience. So let's talk placement and usage. I just said one of the things we don't ever want to see is the cloud when it comes out. Well, if you are in a completely haze-free room and you turn any hazer on, including an MDG, you're going to see a cloud initially. So in any environment, I want to prime the room before the audience walks into it. So if your service is at 9 a.m., our senior adults would throw a fit up against it. Then, hey, maybe shouldn't do it. If your service is at 9 a.m. and the audience starts coming in at 8:30, and it takes 30 minutes to fully haze your room, you need to start hazing at 8 a.m. and not at 8:30, because you want it to already be at the level it's going to be at before the audience walks into the room, because you don't want them to perceive a change. You just want them to come in and go, oh, this is just how it is. You also don't want to see a cloud coming on stage. So often I see people put their hazer right on stage. When they turn it on, you see it blowing out on stage. I put the hazer as far away from the stage as I can get and still get haze onto the stage. At Church on the Move, we actually used 2 MDGs. One was, and the reason we did 2, we didn't need it for the volume. We needed it for the distribution. And what I mean by that is there was a jet stream in the room there. Our room was not quite 40 feet tall, so fairly tall room for a church. And up top, I want to make sure I get this right. Up top, the air moved from stage right to stage left. Down below, it moved from stage left to stage right. So backstage, on the third floor, which we had access to the third floor from backstage, I had a hazer backstage right. Then I had another one on the floor, stage left, so that it hazed out, and they both just went that way as they went. We would always start priming the room before anybody came in. I use a fan with every single hazer made. I don't care how good it is. It does not need to be a nice fan. It does not need to be a DMX controllable fan like you saw in the picture before. My favorite ones cost $13 at Walmart, and they're made by Honeywell. It's perfect. I turn it on and just leave it on all the time. The reason a fan's important is it breaks up the haze even more when it comes out of the unit. It just distributes it more. And then I don't point that fan on stage. Even if I have a shallow stage, I point that fan into the back wall so the haze just goes back there and dissipates and rolls up and slowly seeps out into the room. I've been in environments where the right place to put the hazer wasn't even on stage. I've done it from front of house catwalks over the audience. There was a period of time where we actually had it. This is hard to explain if you haven't been in Church of the Moves room, but you have, Ryland.
Yeah.
We had it in that second floor production hallway around the back coming out through a window because at the time it just worked better in that environment. So where to put the haze is going to vary in every single room out there. If someone tells you that has never been in your room before, if they tell you, here's where you need to put your hazer, you need to stop listening to anything else they say because they don't know because they've never been in your room, and it's going to change based on the airflow, the size, where the doors are, all of that. So to find that out, you need to experiment with different locations. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think a lot of us that are beginning in the moving lights, maybe that's your next thing, you don't really consider haze that much. I remember I got a Chave AM haze and stuck it up in the choir loft and just pointed it right out at people. And I turned it on with 1 minute left on the countdown, and people thought the building was on fire. Yep. Like I was like running up to unplug it. I was just like, why did I not test this during the week? I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you do buy moving lights, you need haze. Like, for instance, this is the impact that haze can have on your lighting looks. No haze and haze.
That's a great example there.
So it's just, and they're on the same way. It's just bam, bam. You got to have haze if you want your lights to translate on camera.
I love that example. I need to make a version of that to show people. Yeah. To your point there as well. I would, if I've got a restricted budget, and people always ask me, we talked about this a little bit earlier, how should we allocate our budget? The first two things to look at for me are your hazer and the quality of it. Now, I'm not saying every single person out there needs to go out and buy a $6,000 MDG hazer, but I would get the highest quality hazer you feel like you can actually afford. I would rather have more subpar lights and a better hazer than better lights and a worse hazer.
Yeah.
I can take basic lights, entry-level lights, and make them look good with the right haze. You can't do that in reverse if you don't have the right haze. The other part, we're not talking about haze here, but the other part I emphasize first is control. If your people don't have an interface, a control console that they can work with easily and quickly, it doesn't matter how good the lights are on stage. They're not going to be able to get those looks out of them. I was just going to mention the other, Antari, which I'm brand agnostic here on most things. Antari has come out with a CO2-based hazer that is cheaper than the MDG. And is it as good? In my opinion, no. There's a few things that aren't great. However, I would absolutely recommend it from what I've seen from it so far. We demoed it here at the company. We're going to start recommending it for a lot of our clients. I'm probably not going to buy any for our rental inventory just because we already have the NVGs. And I have not, I've only demoed one for a day or two, so I got to put that caveat behind it. But it looks like it does provide another option for a lower cost CO2-based hazer that gets you a lot of the same things the NVG does. Not quite all, but a lot.
What are your thoughts on oil-based, like the DF50? Do you ever recommend that for churches? I mean, the Z350, came out.
So glad you said that because I missed that. That's one of the things I wanted to point out. MDGs and the Antari, I think it's called a CH2 that I'm talking about, are oil-based hazers.
Oh.
Yeah, and this is something a lot of people don't understand. I despise water-based hazers. I've never seen one that works well. They came out as a let me back up. Oil-based hazers are not bad for you or your respiratory system in any way whatsoever. I'm going to not actually name names because I butcher if I get it right, but I want to say it was whatever union represents Broadway performers did a huge study. I don't know the exact cost, but that spent tons of money doing a study on haze, because when you have someone with a a voice that's insured for millions of dollars in an environment like that, you're not going to let that get affected by something like HAZE if it's not right. They found no negative respiratory issues with oil-based HAZE at all. Now, does that mean that HAZE never actually affects someone? No, that's not true. We're all humans. All our bodies are different. Some people are going to have existing respiratory issues that could potentially be triggered by HAZE. So I'm not saying that the lady that says that HAZE makes her cough is lying, but there is no issue with oil-based HAZE that I've ever heard about within my 30 years of doing this. You mentioned DF50 specifically. There are different types of oil-based HAZE. We talked about the NVGs and the Antares, or the Antares CH2. I think I'm saying that model right. Excuse me if I'm wrong. They do use oil, but it's a different process than, say, a DF50 uses. DF50 is called a cracked oil hazer, and what it actually uses is mineral oil. You don't have to buy DF50 fluid. You can go Walgreens and buy mineral oil and pour it in your DF50, and it works great. I used to buy it in bulk by the jug at COTM when we still had one in our kids' room, because I think DF50 fluid cost me $50 a gallon. Mineral oil cost me $15 a gallon. So I just bought unscented mineral oil, and it worked great for it.
Wow.
That hazer's still working today. That was 15 years ago. I do not recommend DF50s for HAZE at churches at all, ever, under any circumstances. DF50s are one of the all-time best hazers out there. I kind of actually wished I owned a couple here at the company. I might need to buy them. They are tanks. They are indestructible. You want to do a concert, and they are awesome. But because it's that cracked oil, it does not dissipate the same way an MDG or a CO2-based hazer does. So your keyboardist is going to feel it on his keyboards.
Yep.
If you have unsealed optics in your projectors, it's going to creep in there and start blurring the optics on your projectors or your cameras. It is going to get into everything and on everything because it doesn't evaporate the same way. With a CO2-based hazer, you might get a little bit of residue in like a 3-foot radius around the hazer, but you're not going to feel it anywhere beyond that. So love oil-based hazers. I think it's what everybody should use. If you have a problem in your room where it feels like you have a layer of haze, I know a lot of people have experienced this before where it's almost like the haze stops right here and doesn't distribute well through the room. It's because you're using a water-based hazer. Water-based hazers are too susceptible to environmental changes. Barometric pressure, temperature, humidity in the room is going to change the way the haze works, and we just can't get reliable results from them for any that I've ever seen. So somebody out there right now is going, no, I got one that works great. Cool, send it to me. I want to learn.
Yeah. We use Ultratech Radiance here. It's all right. It's not going to be anything like a CO2, but it's fine for the price. It's like $600-700 or something. But yeah, that's dude. You could do a masterclass around haze.
Dude, it's one of my favorite topics. Yeah.
All right, we got one more that we're gonna do with Daniel, and then I'll keep going with you guys. And after we review this one, I've got one more overrated, underrated section that I want to just get your rapid fire answers on. So let's dive into this third church's live stream. This is Roswell Presbyterian Church. And this is the setup that they're working with. It looks like a gymnasium that they have a stage. They've added this front stage, which they said has presented a few problems. They do some in the round kind of things and some interesting backdrops here. And they've got some curtain lighting type stuff, back porch string lights above. So let's take a listen and watch to Roswell Presbyterian Church.
Now, in the hands that created the heavens, find me now, where the grace runs as deep as your skies. You pulled me from the clay, led me on the ride, called me by your name, made my heart whole again. Lifted up and from east, north, south for your glory, that I might stand with more reason to sing than to fear.
All right, so we're in a slower paced song, so less changes on cameras and things like that. But is anything jumping out to you from what you're seeing here?
Yeah. First thing I noticed about this one, and I love this, it feels like they've just, again, I know nothing about this church. but it feels like they did a good job of matching like the personality. Like all the pieces seem cohesive to me. What I mean by that is they're in a gymatorium, so they're not swinging for the fence. They don't have crazy production, moving lights going all over the place, but the production I'm seeing also matches the tone of the worship really, really well. They did a really cool custom looking set back here. I love those banners. It kind of has like a stained glass feel to it. They lit it well. When there's a front shot, you can kind of see it looks like they did some LED tape down the sides of it to light it. Oftentimes people will make those scenic elements, but then not figure out, oh, they also need to be lit. That's a little interesting. I wonder what's going on with her backlight there. Yeah.
Yeah, coming in and out. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that is, I would not. That seems distracting. Like I love the way she's lit, kind of more from the side. It's very vibey, which matches the feel of what I'm hearing for her. This is a great job of the theatrical part I was talking about, where they didn't try and do production for the sake of production, except for that blue light coming on and off. It all seems to just match what we're seeing and hearing from the stage really, really well. I like the cross in the background. I like that this one it's a unique look. Like I don't see a single lighting fixture anywhere. I see scenery that's lit well. You know, I'd love to hear from them. My first reaction is to talk about that center block wall right back there. I'd love to hear from them, because I bet they're probably, if they're listening to this right now, they're going, yeah, we hate it too. Like, I wonder if it's that they can't do anything with it. I would love to even see just a sheet of fabric put in front of it.
Yeah.
To cut down on that sheen on it a little bit, to make it not look cinder blocky. I love the simplicity. I love the cleanness of this. I bet, like, far too often when people have to work in challenging environments like this, they try and shove too much in there. This feels right for the space and for the content.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love the way they lit those fabrics, like you're saying, with the LED tape that you can kind of see here. So that's really cool. It's interesting. One of the struggles they said they had is adding this stage on the front kind of changed where their key lights need to be. Can you talk about, like, if we have, a lot of us have these Source 4 lights, and I just started at my church and had no idea like how to focus these. Somebody told me you can like rotate them, and I was like, I didn't even know you could do any of this.
Yeah.
So when we're focusing maybe ellipsoidals, you could talk about Fresnels versus ellipsoidals versus pars, and we'll just watch a little bit more while you kind of talk about that.
Sure. So the biggest difference in those three fixtures is controllability of the light. So pars, you have the only controllability is you can either change the bulb if it's an old school one, or the lens if it's new, and change how big a spread of a beam you have. With a par, it's also not going to be a round beam. It's going to be an oval one. Well, I guess the narrow and very narrow. Once you start getting into medium and wide lenses, it becomes more oval. This goes all the way back to the old school par days of, like, you know, pars were one of the original kind of concert lighting things. Par lamps were already existing, like they were already used in car headlights and other utility things for that, and then people made a theatrical light around it. One of the things that I think is weird is, I mean, that was 50, 60, 70 years ago. That pars existed because it fixed a need with an existing thing. Why are we still using pars then? We have all this new technology and all these new designs. Why are we still keeping that around? But pars were cheap and just easy to use and easy to deploy, and that was the thing about them. So I don't recommend anyone nowadays using pars for key light at all, ever, for any reason. There's a few little caveat exceptions to that I'm not going to waste our time getting into. Fresnels are more of a theatrical fixture. That's where they started. And what makes a Fresnel is two things. It's the lens. It actually has a Fresnel lens, which if you've ever seen a lighthouse, like an ocean lighthouse, and you see the actual light and it has that big crazy looking lens in the front of it with all the ridges on it, that's a Fresnel lens. And Fresnel lens gives you a round beam or a round output with a soft edge to it. It always has a soft edge. You're never going to see a hard edge Fresnel where it's got a focused edge to it. And then with a Fresnel, you move the light source back and forth inside of the fixture, and that changes the zoom of the fixture, how big the spread is. I don't care if it's an old school Fresnel or if it's an LED Fresnel, those two elements have to exist for it to be a Fresnel. Fresnels often have barn doors on the front, which, you know, barn doors are those things you see hanging out the front. You can kind of bring in and out, the top and the bottom. That gives you some control over the bleed of the light. But because it's out in front of the fixture, in front of the lens and everything, it doesn't give you total control. It's like, yeah, you can kind of direct it a little bit, but if you're shooting against a video screen, you're not going to be able to get that clean cut you need to keep light off the video screen. That takes us to ellipsoidals. Ellipsoidals have a lot of different names. Ellipsoidals, Lecos. A lot of people just, kind of like tissue is called Kleenex. A lot of people just refer to ellipsoidals as source 4s because that was one of the most popular ones ever made, even though there's source 4 PARs and source 4 Fresnels and all the other things. My first choice for key lighting in most churches out there is going to be an ellipsoidal because of the controllability. It's also, and I'll own this, it's a little less forgiving than, say, a Fresnel as well. You do need to know what you're doing a little bit better and how to set it up a little better. What I like about it is that controllability, because I can still, if I need a real sharp, hard-edge cut to stay off of something like a screen or the front row or whatever, I can do that, and I can get a very clean, like I can make it where on this inch, you're lit. 1 inch over, it's dark. You can't do that with any other fixture besides an ellipsoidal or like a profile-style moving light that has shutters, which is basically a moving ellipsoidal. The times when I do start to use Fresnels more for key light is in smaller environments. When you're in a very small room, sometimes you don't have the distance you need with an ellipsoidal to get the even field across the stage. I could do a whole hour just on this, so I'm gonna try and keep it short. Key lighting in general is one of the places where I love seeing the creative things that churches come up with. Some of my favorite churches are the one. Yeah, there we go. HAZE ellipsoidals. We love the Reve series. We own a ton. We use a ton. The 910 FCs there are also great fixtures. Reve IP, wonderful ellipsoidals. That is our go-to at DC Pro. We do use some other brands as well. There are some other companies that make amazing ones, but the HAZE Ovation Reve E3s have just been super, super solid for us. If you can go back around to the front shot on that one.
On this church's one?
No, go to the Reve.
Oh, I gotcha. Sorry. Hold on.
That's all right.
Where am I at? I have too many tabs open.
Yeah,
Here we
seeing this made me realize I've missed a very important part here. So, yeah, if you notice the front, see how that says it has red on the front lens, and then I believe that one says 26 for 26 degree. You can do different lenses in your ellipsoidals, and you can also do a zoom lens in your ellipsoidal. I do not recommend that for 99.9% of applications. I recommend a fixed lens like this, but the common ones are 5 degree, 10 degree, 14 degree, 19 degree, 26 degree, 36 degree, 50 degree, 70 degree, and 90 degree. And even 70 and 90 aren't really that common. Most churches, you're going to need something around 19 to 26 to 36 degrees, depending on your environment. Lens choice with your ellipsoidals is everything. So if you don't understand it and you don't know how to pick the right lenses, contact a professional that does. If you don't know a professional that does, Daniel at dcprolva.com. My passion is helping churches use technology to do ministry well. I don't care if you ever buy a single thing from us. If you need some advice on some of this stuff, I'm dead serious. Reach out to me. Hit me on Instagram. As you mentioned, Rylan, that's very honoring that you said that way, but guys, I love doing this. I love just helping churches not waste their money, even if they're not spending it with me. I don't care if you use another integrator. If you need a second opinion on lighting, get in touch with me. So lens choice is very important because if you have too narrow a lens, your spots are going to be too small. It's going to make it very hard to get an even wash across the stage. If your lenses are too wide, you're not going to have enough intensity hitting your stage because it's spreading your light out too much. Literally, I could probably go for another 45 minutes just on this topic, but I'll stop here unless you got questions.
That's great. Let's flip back over to just seeing their pastor talk segment. I think a common thing I see in a lot of church live streams is that kind of shadowing under the eyes. That's always because the light angle is too steep and it's too close to the stage typically.
It is, and there are ways to fix this. And they mentioned that they moved what they said the issue they're having of extending their stage out and their lighting position's wrong. Man, I've heard this so many times. It's a very common issue. So first thing I would say, ideally you'd move your lighting position farther out. And anybody that's hearing that is like, well, that's not as easy as it sounds. Totally get it. If you can't do that, the next thing I would be doing is trying to find a position farther back in the room. So like this being a kind of gymatorian thing, I'm looking at that second level and there appears to be a handrail there. My question for these guys
could be, you mount?
Does that go all the way around the back?
Yeah, or that.
The sides, in the back. My favorite way, if to do key lighting, if I have it, because everybody's always like, what angle should I light at? You should light at multiple angles, in my opinion. There's something called the McCandless theory. I think people rely on this too much. I want to came from like the 1920s or 30s or 40s, Stanley McCandless, and it talks about how to light someone with the proper angles. And it's a great foundation, but it's not everything. And what he says is you want your front lighting to be at 45 degrees up and 45 degrees out from what you're trying to light. There's a lot of truth to that. I prefer to be more down in like 35 degree range for when I'm lighting for video, so that I can get into some of those pastors' eyes that are, a lot of times our pastors are older gentlemen, you know, my age or older. And I even experienced this myself. Your eyes start to sink a little bit, and your cheeks start to puff out a little bit, and you get these dark. The reason I don't have that right now is I have a light literally right, you can see it right there lighting me, so that I don't have it. If I didn't, even look at the difference on me.
Yeah.
So it's minor, but you can see it. So I like to light a little bit lower, and then even I like to take just a couple fixtures and put them even lower out at the back of the audience. Like I'm not going to say a degree, but just all the way in the back, kind of low. And those aren't my primary. The upper fixtures at that 35 to 45 degree range are still my key light. If you're used to lighting for photography, you're used to the term key and fill. Key and fill normally means left and right. In this case, I'm using key and fill as my key is coming from up top, and then I just fill in those shadows in the eyes a little bit with that low light out front, just to get rid of some of that. A challenge that comes with that, and they would experience this in this environment, is that when you're lighting lower like that, you're going to get more light spilling up stage behind the person. So if in a shallow stage, that can become an issue. The way to overcome that is to light the areas where the light is spilling. Does that make sense? So like you need to light your background where the light is spilling to, so you don't see the light spill, you see the intentional lighting. Great designer that was a mentor of mine had a saying. He goes, if you can't hide it, highlight it. So I'd say that, like, if you can't hide the light spill, highlight it intentionally so it looks like it's supposed to be that way. Does that kind of make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, I like the main key position. I like the low in the back to fill in the eyes. I do like a footlight to help fill in the jowls. People think, oh, I have dark eye sockets here, I need key light. No, I need footlight. Footlight does not fix this ever, because it's coming up and our chins and our cheeks are in the way. Key light fixes this and you know, and this here, when you get really dark shadows to these areas, that's what, or sorry, I keep saying key light. Footlight fixes that. What fixes this is that lower angle from farther out. And then I really like side light on pastors as well too, for that dimensional look. And they could definitely do that in here off those top rails. But if they do it, they're going to actually light their background better, which I think they need to do anyway.
Yeah, and make him separate off this back wall a little more maybe.
Yeah.
And then you could add some color.
The thing I love so much about this church is they took a very non-production approach, and it's very scenic. I would love to honor and keep that. So they could even do like, could we do some short banners underneath the screen beside the cross that still creates a lit background, but where we're not just lighting up center block wall or something. I do think it needs something back there more for that center line shot.
Man, those are great thoughts. Hopefully that helps you out, Roswell Presbyterian Church. And yeah, really, really good stuff there. All right, man, we're going to wrap our time up with Daniel before we move on to our next session of live stream reviews, where I'll get with some of you guys with just some final, like, rapid fire, overrated, underrated when it comes to lighting in the church. So I want to get your rapid fire thoughts. He has not heard any of these, and you guys can chime in the comments as well what you think.
Slightly nervous.
All right, so as a lighting guy, overrated, underrated, DMX cabling, or is XLR cables good enough? Is DMX cabling overrated or underrated?
Oh, I guess I'd say underrated. XLR for DMX does not work. Period. Like, it physically will work until it doesn't. It's a shielding issue. I'm not Mr. Technical. I lean more on the artistic side, but no, don't use microphone cable for your DMX. Like, it's a minor cost difference. Go buy, if you're really on a budget, go to Elite Core, buy some VRL cable. It's still properly shielded DMX cable. Do that. Do not use microphone cables. I've done it.
You know, we only have XLR microphone cables here.
So
we have
every time
probably like 70 of them. I don't know.
Every time I say a topic like this, someone will always pop up and go, well, I do that and I've never had issues. That's true about just about everything out there until you do. Or you may not have an issue, but the person 2 miles away, closer to the radio transmitter, is going to have an issue. And so these best practices, like, there's a reason you do it. And I don't care if it's using, well, anyway, I'll stop here. Every one of those, I always find somebody who's like, well, I've done it and it's just fine. Okay, well, I can, yeah, anyway. Right.
In the remodel, we will be using DMX cables in the remodel. So, yeah. All right. How about wireless DMX, overrated or underrated?
Golly.
Properly rated.
Properly rated because it is a great tool for when you need it and you have to have it. It is not to the point yet where it should be the staple of the way we just do things.
Okay. Do you guys, what system do you guys use whenever you have to use wireless?
We use a lot of Lumen Radio, and there are times where it absolutely is necessary, and we use it. HAZE has some built-in wireless things that we'll use on occasion just because that's the only option is to use the wireless DMX, such as like their Freedom Flex uplight pars. But I've had very few experiences with wireless DMX where you still didn't have some issues pop up.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, my rule of thumb with wireless DMX is you only use it when you have to.
Yep. Run the
Otherwise,
cable if you can.
Get copper. Yeah.
Yeah. There's always a little bit of latency or something that could go wrong there.
Yeah, or some interference, or somebody turns on the popcorn maker in the lobby, and then suddenly everything quits working.
Yeah. Motorized truss, overrated or underrated?
In the church environment.
Yeah, let's say a church of 500 to 1,000.
And are we talking about motorized in the sense that it can just come up and down, or computer controlled where it's motion control?
I would say not like motion control for during the service, but for serviceability's sake.
Underrated. So many churches can't do what they want to do because they can't access their positions. Or it's every time you want to do it, you got to go rent a $1,000 lift to get in there and do it and clear your stage and pull pews out and all that. We generally try not to put in fixed positions over stages at churches. We have to do it sometimes, but we really try and avoid it. We try and lead with some kind of motor first for ongoing maintenance. I don't care how nice your lights are. You can buy the most expensive moving lights out there. Once a year, you need to be cleaning them, maintaining them, checking on them. It's a robot. Like, it needs some upkeep. And if you can't easily get to them, you're not going to do that. So underrated for sure.
Nice. Speaking of underrated, lighting fixtures as a whole, what is your most underrated fixture that you kind of like, it's like your secret sauce that you like to utilize in designs, or,
I already told it. Yeah, I already told it. It's that HAZE P38, man.
Okay.
It's funny. I actually found out from the HAZE rep the other day. He's like, yeah, we haven't sold a lot of those. I've probably bought a few hundred. And he's like, yeah, you may be the only person. Not really. He was kind of saying that jokingly, but I love those. It's a great little fixture. It is definitely kind of a little secret technique of mine. Footlight used to be that, but Footlight's kind of become popularized now. Like, I've been using Footlight since back my touring days with, I want to say the first real group I ever used Footlight with was Third Day. And that kind of became a staple where I just don't do stuff without it anymore if I can keep from it. Trying to think of the other ones I can throw in there. Yeah, I think the P38s. Go check out the HAZE P38s. Buy some so they don't feel so bad.
Last one. Yeah, there you go. Last one. What do you think, underrated, overrated, on remote light design for churches? I know of some churches that have hired that out because they have their system set up where they can do that. Is that something you guys have done? Is it overrated, underrated? What do you think?
We do it, and I think there needs to be some clarity on there. I separate, there's lighting design, which to me is how you design the rig and the physical part of it.
Sure.
Then there's lighting programming, which is actually what you're doing on your weekend service. I think it is, I'm going to lean on underrated, but it's also, man, it's a pitfall. You have to get people in. Just because the person knows how to do lighting does not mean they're the right person to do lighting for your church. They have to understand the intention, the context, the style, and we get asked to do it more than we do it, simply because there's a lot of situations where we don't have the capability right now to do it the way it needs to be done. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
I think there's a lot of churches, I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis, and there's a lot of churches out there that should do it and will get better overall results by hiring a professional to do it. And there's other churches where they have someone in already who just has a knack and a passion for it, and most importantly, understands the mission of that church because they're part of that church and they have the heart for that church. Maybe they're not a professional, but they're still the ones that need to be doing it. That should be your first choice. If you don't have that, go look for a professional.
Dude, it's been a great time on the live stream today with Daniel. Guys, say thank you in the chat today. And we could talk for hours about this stuff. But Daniel, will you just kind of do what you did at the beginning there, where you kind of just share a little bit about DC Pro? If people are interested and they want to reach out, how can they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, we're a full service production company. Here's what I mean by that. We do design and integration. So you're building a brand new campus at your church. You want to remodel the campus at your church. We jokingly, as you pointed out, we're not an AVL company. We're an LVA company. I always like to emphasize the V and the A are in there. One of the things I made sure I did early on was hire guys who know video and audio the way that I know lighting, so we can be a well-rounded company. And we've got just some absolute studs here on the audio and video side. So we do that. We also do straight box sales. You know, you need to buy new moving lights. You need something. If it's even a thing you would normally go to, say, like a Sweetwater for, I'm going to challenge you to go, hey, give us a shot of looking at it. Number one, I think we can most of the time beat prices. And if we can't, we'll be honest with you about that. Two, almost every single person on my team has worked in full-time ministry and production at some point. You know, I've got two guys on my staff who are worship leaders. We understand what week is like in a church, and that is our passion, is helping. So even if it's a simple sale, getting a little advice to go along with that, I think can be a great add. So we do the box sales. We also have a full rental division. So we go out and do a lot of both church and Christian events with rental equipment. We dry hire rent to churches. If you just need extra lights for Easter or Christmas, we do that. And we also have a full event division. So we get hired out to just help produce the events a lot ourselves. So try and cover all the bases. We also, a lot of churches are starting to look more at long-term rentals. That's a place we kind of specialize, because Andrew and I at Church on the Move, I don't want to give us more credit than we deserve here, but in some ways we sort of pioneered that long-term rental model in the church. There were other people out doing it. We weren't the only ones, but I think we sort of popularized it a little bit. From doing that, I feel, and I'm tooting my own horn here, I feel I understand the needs and the way that can function a lot more than just maybe some of your bigger companies out there that just see it as an opportunity for business. So we really like structuring those long-term rentals in a way where it's both a win for the church and a win for us, which is very important. And I'll be the first to tell you, there are churches that we have talked out of doing long-term rentals with us because it just wasn't right for them. And that's what I want first. I will talk about the good and the bad and give you all the data you need to help make the decision on whether it's right for your church. And I'll tell you, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So yeah, that's DC Pro. We're easy to find online, dcprolva.com. Easy to find on social media.
Yep.
I think Instagram is dcpro.lva.com. I'm just Daniel Connell on Instagram as well. And yeah, if you need anything, reach out.
Awesome. Daniel, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to share, and I'm looking forward to working with you, dude. It's going to be a fun
me too, man.
next 365 days as we jump into our projects. So, all right, I'm going to let you go off the live stream, and then, guys, we'll be back for basically hour number 2. I'm going to take a little 4-minute break, and then we'll circle back. So thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
I've still got Daniel up. How about that? That's fun. We'll get this going. Hold on. I don't know what's going on with my DC. I don't know. we got just like another minute here. I'm getting these other live stream reviews set up and that you guys have submitted, and we'll get going. Welcome back to hour number 2 of our live stream reviews on this Friday live stream. I'm going to jump in and do as much as I can in this next hour. And I really appreciate you guys who have gone ahead and done the little super chatting with us today. So our first one up is
Thank you.
City Church, but Batavia? How would you say that? I don't know. But we're going to look at their live stream right now. So let's hop into it and jump into praise, it sounds like. Let's give it a look and a listen. You guys help me out in the chat today. I'm all alone now. Here we go.
Praise on the mountain. I praise when I'm sure. I praise when I'm doubting. I praise when outnumbered. I praise when surrounded. 'Cause praise is the water my enemies drowning. As long as I'm breathing, I've got a reason to praise the Lord of my soul. Praise the Lord of my soul. I praise when I feel it. I praise.
All right. Let's see. The first thing I'm noticing is I feel like possibly your live stream overall volume is clipping just a little bit. Whenever we look, let's do this. Let's look at stats for nerds. It looks like YouTube did normalize your audio just a little bit. Am I reading that right, guys? I think I am. That if it went from 100% to 93%, YouTube then had to basically bring down the volume. And so I kind of hear that in the audio as well, that it's clipping a little bit. I love this straight on camera shot. White balance looks really good. The backlight is helping, and then that really clean blue background behind her, different colors, whatever you're going to use, it's going to make them pop, and that is great. I wish that your lead vocalists weren't having to use like iPads or that music stand right there in front. She may be controlling other things. I don't know. That may be like a multi-track playback or something. You can do so much remotely now. It's cool. Lower thirds, I wish that these were only 2-line instead of 4-line. I feel like it kind of creeps up too high in the image frame. So like this, praise the Lord, oh my soul, 4 times. We don't necessarily need that. You could just have that one time already ready to go in Pro Presenter. On a song like this, I probably wouldn't use dissolves to cut between your cameras, and I would definitely amp up the changes. So like that dissolve, I would just do cuts. I like that this camera shot on your drummer. You can see the whole set. It's kind of odd that like top down, but I think it works. Lighting looks pretty even across the stage here. I like your little gobos there on the side wall. I wish that maybe you could frame people where you could see those gobos from a side shot. Let's just pop through here, and I'll turn the volume down and just kind of look. So I've only seen 3 camera shots, I think. This one's a good shot. I like that little lower third pop in there. I saw one earlier that was good. That might be a little much on the animation, but I mean, it works. But yeah, I like, oh, a little bumper, a little alpha channeled bumper. Interesting. Although we went to the drummer out of it. That was kind of funny. Let's watch that.
Come on, praise the Lord this morning. Amen. Why don't you just turn to somebody this morning?
You like had it perfectly planned out. You're like, okay, we got the alpha bumper. Here we go. And then our other camera was on drummer. So it's just how it works sometimes. Not a big deal, you know. But yeah, those lower thirds look great. I really like the color. I think that if you could add another camera that was handheld somehow, that could focus on some of these other, you got a lot of people on stage. Like, you got this guy in the background that is just, he's styling. Like, man, give him some camera time, right? Shooting down the line of your singers and guitarists, I think from a side angle would be good. This is a side angle, but it's like kind of catching everybody. And you got your pianist back there in the back. You could just focus on her hands with a shot. One thing I have not seen is an establishing shot. And that's something I continue to notice as I review you guys' live streams, is the lack of establishing shots at the beginning of a service, at the beginning and end of a song. You know, I'm talking about a wide shot that shows the full room, because for now, this could be, I haven't seen the congregation once. And so like this could have been a pre-recorded thing. So I think having another camera that is your safe bail wide shot would be a great thing. And you can, you know, chime in the comments there, City Church, if any of this stuff is off base, maybe, you know, you don't have the ability or just other limitations. I'm just throwing ideas out there. So obviously you only have 3 shots. It can kind of feel stale. Okay, here's a little closer side profile. What are we doing here? Let's see. So see, that looks handheld. Maybe you just didn't have a handheld at the beginning of the service or something. Because that helps just bring the little energy up. Let's listen to the audio mix a little bit and you guys chime in.
Jesus from the mountains, Jesus in the streets, Jesus in the darkness over every enemy, and Jesus for my family.
Yeah, very sibilant. Yeah, people are commenting the same thing I'm hearing, that it's just very sibilant, that high end is harsh, and it may be coming from the drums. So all right, let's fast forward to preach.
Let's pray, and I'm just going to be just a few moments this morning. Lord, thank you.
Yeah, looks great.
So much for what you have already done. We anticipate.
You know, sometimes these lights that are pointing like this can be a little harsh to the camera and to the naked eye. I don't mind it. You could. I've actually got a video coming out soon talking about a DIY diffusion that we've used recently in our student center for this very thing. We actually have them mounted vertically, and it's worked pretty well. So keep an eye out for that. That might be something to use. I don't love this setup with your picture-in-picture thing. You know, he doesn't have a preaching TV necessarily next to him. I would go ahead and invest the time to make these lower thirds on the preach camera. I mean, that's just my preference. Especially like this is way too much scripture on screen. You're probably just replicating whatever's in the room into this, and you're making it work with the picture-in-picture. But there's better ways that you could achieve that by sending another separate feed out of ProPresenter that's happening at the same time just for live stream. So I also would say like this gradient with the white text makes it a little hard to read. And so just be conscious of that. But even throwing in a secondary angle for your preaching time would be good. Although you're lucky, it does look like he stays pretty close to the music stand. I don't know. I think that's all the thoughts I have. So thanks for submitting. I think there you go. There's that secondary shot. I think that's great. I probably wouldn't have your gobos moving during preach. That can be maybe a little distracting. Just make them go static and maybe out of focus if you can a little bit. So, City Church, thanks for submitting. Very fun. Well, how's my Instagram family doing over there? You know, if you guys didn't know, today we are streaming on Instagram via this YOLO Box Ultra. So Instagram is allowing over time rolling out the feature for you to stream on Instagram. But I still don't have it. I guess I'm not, I'm not Insta worthy. So YOLO Box sent me the YOLO Box Ultra, and it can do a lot of different things. And I'll be coming out with a full review on it soon. But if you're on Instagram, let me know how the quality is today. I'm going to go ahead and hit record on the SD card for this little guy. Basically, it's just a replica of the ATEM Extremes program output going in to here, and then it has a overlay, so that way it's just horizontal. You can crop it in, but I opted just to use an overlay there. I don't think Instagram is the future of live streaming. It is not built for that, right? YouTube is definitely more built for that. And so, especially for broadcasts like this, I'm not talking about just like one-off, like hold your phone up, Instagram Live. It's short form consumption. Even Facebook, I feel like, is more that way. But we're definitely leaning into YouTube. Speaking of live streaming, before we get to our next live stream review with Big Guy Camping and Hills Church, this next week we're making a pretty substantial change to the way we do our live stream. We have had nothing but issues over the last month and a half with our Web Presenter HD. I recently was forced to upgrade our Unify Ubiquity distribution stuff for our web, our network. And the UDM Pro, once I updated the firmware on it, it just caused all kinds of issues to where our cache is filling up again. And I've had to use my phone as a hotspot. This last Sunday, we didn't even have live streaming. So this Sunday, we are moving on with our Boxcast. So I've got the old school Boxcast, and I'm just going to give it a try. So if you guys use Boxcast, you got any tips or tricks for me, send me a message on Insta or drop it in the chat. Do you guys use it? Have you enjoyed it? I know it's more expensive, but luckily I have the ability to do this and test it out for our church and just see how it works. So I'm excited to try and not have to worry about our internet not working. So anyways, we had some other good thoughts in the chat here on that last live stream. But for now, let's go ahead and pull up Hills Church.
Thank you.
All right. I will try to grab your latest one. I think you said you wanted me to try and do that. So let me pull up your live stream. If you guys haven't seen the recent videos that I've been posting, man, I feel like I've put out some really good stuff recently. So you need to go check out my vertical slider cam video, maybe the I'm trying to talk while I'm looking through submissions. I talked about how we're changed up the way we're doing tracks all through ProPresenter, and we're using just like multi-channel WAV files to do that. And it's worked really well so far. Jared, there you are. Let me see. But it's definitely not for everyone. Like, playback and prime and all those things are great and probably a better solution for most churches. But for us, it's worked pretty well. All right. Let me pull up Hills Church. Here we go. Turn up the volume. 10, 9, 8.
One, two. 1, 2. Go 1, 2.
Let's go.
1, 2. Hey, good morning, everyone.
Oh, I love it. Hold on. We got to go back. I love it. It's like me and It's like me at the beginning of this live stream, right? Audio switches.
1, 2. 1, 2.
She's on in the live stream, but maybe not in the
1,
house.
2. 1, 2. Hey, good morning, everyone.
There we go.
That's my delayed start for the morning. What a
Oh, not
privilege
this
to be
one?
in church with you today. It's holiday, so we're a little bit.
Oh, wait. Maybe I need to refresh here. No, it's the latest one. That's the latest one, Jared. You don't want that one? Let's see. This is the other one. Let's see. He says it's fine now. No, I got
Me
you.
today. I've been thinking
It's the same one. I think you copy and pasted the same one.
about what it means to raise a hallelujah. Why do we need to raise it? If a hallelujah means to praise God, why do we need to raise it? Because sometimes our circumstances make us feel like it's difficult to praise. But we have so many things to be grateful for this morning.
Dude, I like your acoustic player, just like giving us a little vibe back there, a little solo action. This is a nice little intro vamp. Let me go back and just see your details of your setup. M32 operating in the broadcast room. Gonna go to a Yamaha DM7. Cameras. Oh, you're upscaling to 4K for YouTube. Okay, 7 cameras. Blackmagic Studio 4K. Micro Studio 4K, Zcam E1, come on, represent, that's what I got too, baby. GH4, yes, GH5 roaming with the 35 to 100. All right, man, solid cameras. Let's see how they all fit together.
Would you raise a hallelujah in the midst of your circumstances this week? Come on, sing with me.
Are you using autofocus on that? Manual. There, it's in focus.
I raise a hallelujah
We are in
in the
4K.
presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief.
Solid mix.
I raise a hallelujah.
Let's hear once the band kicks in.
My weapon is
I feel like maybe you could get less headroom for her
I raise a hallelujah.
down the line here.
Heaven comes to fight
Feels
for
like a
me.
little dark,
And
maybe?
I'm gonna sing. And I'm gonna sing.
Little slider action. I like the way you lit up the kit.
Of the storm. Louder and louder.
Nice.
You're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated. The King is alive. Do you
So-
believe that our King is alive?
I would go to the drums then. You know, anytime on these in-between parts, try to go to the instrumentals there like you're doing. But on beat is even better.
Hallelujah. With everything. With everything.
So you got 7 cameras. There you go. Pop into some different shots. Like I said earlier, I have not seen any establishing shots. Except that, well, no, maybe there was. Yeah, this is establishing. I lied. I forgot about the intro. I like personally to go to more wide shots, but we don't have iMag in the room. And so, you know, if you guys have watched our live stream, we do a lot of that roaming cam operator, creating dolly shots behind the audience. So, you know, we've been on this static shot for a while. This one's another static shot. Oh, there's your video that you're talking about. Let's just pop forward in front of that. I love the background that you got here with your LED wall. What pixel pitch is that LED wall? You do see a little moire on it, but nothing bad. It's tough when they're up against the wall like that. It makes it a little tougher. I like this vibe where you got that kind of uplight showing on his hands, kind of accenting. Aww.
If he inhabits
There we go. Let's see. 2.9. Nice. Oh, that's right. You're drumming, so you're not switching today. Oh, I was just thinking the drummer was doing great.
his grace.
Are y'all using tracks? I don't feel like I hear much tracks if you
Bless
are.
God in the fields of plenty. Bless God in the darkest valley. Every chance I get, I bless.
It might be a little vocal heavy in the mix for me.
Bless God with the praise that costs me. Bless God when nobody's watching. Every chance I get, I bless your name. Bless God when the weather's for me. Bless God when the walls are falling. Bless God 'cause he goes before me. Every chance
I mean, it'd be great if you could do a focus pull on that shot where we're kind of focused on crowd, and then pull to her would be great, but it kind of remained on crowd. This shot, it just feels maybe a little too tight. If I was setting it up, I probably would back that out just a little bit, especially when we're cropping in on the top and bottom with that template, which I'm a big fan of. So, I mean, you got the kit lit up good. You could probably stand a little more light, front light or side light, like Daniel was talking about. I want to fast forward to like, well, let's see what you're doing here. Yeah, this shot's just not my favorite. That side profile. More handheld stuff. Even 2.9, I'm getting you're getting decent amounts of moire, which I don't know if anyone cares about that except for video guys. Like, do people watching the stream care that there's moire or aliasing or whatever on the wall? We've got communion, and then let's look at preaching time here. Back to full video.
Well, I was asked that by a musician.
I like that I can hear a little bit of the
who had
room.
nothing to do with the church. Had no idea about Jesus. Say, why is Jesus so good? Why does the
white balance looks pretty good to me. Yeah, I mean the background, it is like kind of pulsing a little bit with like the pixely stuff. I don't know what depth of field you're rocking on that lens. Like if you could separate them a little more, it looks like it's pretty much going back and forth, so you might be able to get away with a lower f-stop. Okay, yeah, we have an exit sign if I go wider. Yeah, that's always fun. So I think that looks good. Solid follow cam, really solid. So, all right, man, I hope that you found that helpful. All right, we've got one more live stream review that was from a super chat that we're going to hop into in just a minute. But there was a couple other things I wanted to just touch on. How about NAB? You guys been watching all the stuff from NAB. What do you think about the Blackmagic Pixis? I don't know how you say it. Is that something that we need to consider for our churches? This new box cam from Blackmagic. What do you think about the Constellation 4Ks that they've come out with? I don't think we're going to upgrade to 4K even in the new build. Like I was talking to our integrators yesterday about the necessity of 4K, and when you're investing your money, should we invest it in 4K-ness like 12G SDI, or is 2110 the new thing that everybody's going to be going with? Switchers, converters, everything has to be 4K at that point. So I don't know that it's as important as maybe we think it is. Let's face it. Most people are watching on a phone or on their TV, and it's in like 720p maybe. They're not going to settings and making sure it's playing in full HD. Not that that's necessarily why we should make the decision, but it is something to think about. How's the end user interacting with the content we're putting out there? I just wonder if there's things like lighting that would make such a huge difference in our live streams and in-person experience that would be wiser to invest in. Somebody posted on Instagram, the biggest struggle with lighting was that the Blackmagic camera sensors are not very good. And I think that's usually incorrect. I think there is something to be said with like our our camera sensors and the dynamic range of them. But usually most of the Blackmagic stuff, if even if you're pocket 4K and up, like you've got decent enough dynamic range to where it shouldn't be the bottleneck in your live stream look. So I think investing in decent lighting is a wise thing. So did you guys notice anything else from in NAB that you thought was interesting? I mean, there's some other like motorized tripod stuff, just tripods in general. I feel like there were some new PTZs that came out. You know me, I'm not really like a PTZ guy. For the money, like I can't bring myself to spend that much money. So, let's see if there's anything in the comments here. $2110 ecosystem is exciting, but you really have to commit to Blackmagic cameras and everything. Yeah, that's really true. Like, you're going to be locked into their ecosystem, especially since I guess their protocol that they've added to 2110 is not like the actual SMPTE 2110 protocol, because that's why they're able to compress it more so you can get 4K. Yeah, 4K over the 2110, which I guess wouldn't typically be capable because of data rates and stuff. So, all right, let's see. It's 12:03 here. That means I've been live streaming for 2 hours. But let's hit up sample stuffs.
Thank you.
All right, while I get his pulled up, Rivers Crossing. Is anybody going to be at Philo? I'm excited because I am 2 weeks away, basically, from, well, it's less than that, isn't it? It's like a week and a half away from Philo. First in, last out is what it's called. It's a conference that happens in Chicago at Willow Creek. And it's my first time to ever go. And I'm excited because I'm getting to lead a breakout session about next level live streaming on a budget. Because that's my life around here, is trying to up our game, but not go over budget. And that's not easy, right? But I'm just basically going to be sharing tips and tricks for all things AVL, especially more on the video side. So if any of you guys are going to be at Philo and you see me around, like, definitely come and say hello. I'm excited to meet new people, and me and my tech director Brett are going to be there for the first time. So looking forward to sharing for sure, but also just like learning a lot. Let's see if anybody else is going to be there. Awesome. Yeah. A couple people in the chat. Great. All right. Let's hit up this next live stream review for Rivers Crossing. Oh, yeah. You said something about the roller coaster.
How we doing, Rivers Crossing? So good to see you. If I haven't met you, my name is Paul.
Wow.
Honored to have you here in the house in Mason. If you didn't know, we are a church that meets in... Remember the Son of Beast at Kings Island? Oh my gosh. I was riding that as a youth pastor.
What?
A long time ago. And the kid thought that I was screaming.
They really do have a roller coaster. This is amazing. Okay, I got to go back and see the context of this.
What about non-roller coaster people? Anyone?
Did someone build this for you guys? Or did you get this from like a kiddie park
I think
and bring it in?
even our non-roller coaster people could handle the River Raptor. That's the name of this.
Watch
Even
him, watch him.
Our
He didn't know it was
non-roller
coming.
coaster people could handle the River Raptor. That's the name of this. Yeah, that scared me. Yes,
He
it
did.
did.
That scared me.
I wasn't prepared for it. I want to show you what's behind the wall. Like, if you take a look here, you'll notice it's not that big of a deal. It's pretty flat back here. And, no ups and downs, no twists and turns. I'm not hurting like the first time that I rode the Son of Beast. Anybody remember the Son of Beast at Kings Island? Oh my gosh.
That's a tough thing to try and translate online, right? It's like he's going behind the LED wall where they built this, and now you need to light it and have a camera for that to translate online, and probably in the room too, because you couldn't see him.
I was riding that as a youth pastor a long time ago, and the kid thought that I was screaming because I was having so much fun. And for 2 minutes, I thought I was going to die. I was screaming in pain because the bar on my lap was cutting into my thighs so severely that I thought I was going to die. It
That
was
is
the first
funny.
time I threw up in 17.
I mean, using that LED wall, colors, I love the wash. He's separate from everything, but like he pops off that pretty well. And obviously the roller coaster is amazing and hilarious at the same time. So is this just his preaching message, I think? To cut it down.
Yeah, some people
Yeah.
they're sad or like they're feeling upset or
I mean, that looks
anxious,
great.
they
I wonder
retch.
if Rivers
Some
Crossing
people,
leaves up any of their live streams.
Hi everyone, I'm Pat.
Streamed 2 months ago. We can look at it and see. It's interesting. The drummer's like facing the middle. You don't usually see that. We've reviewed you guys before. All the LED walls and stuff. High energy, let's go, baby.
Praise 'cause you're sovereign, praise 'cause you reign, praise 'cause you rose and defeated the grave. I praise 'cause you're faithful, praise 'cause you're true, praise 'cause there's nobody greater than you. You say, praise 'cause you're sovereign.
Yeah, it's like, I think I remember talking about how the audio bitrate on this live stream sounds like it's maybe a little squashed, because like, it sounds like a great mix. It just has that little bit of artifacting in it.
Nobody greater than you. Praise the Lord. Yeah, come on, church. Everybody
Dang.
say praise.
Okay.
Say praise. I will bless the Lord at all times, and His praise shall be in my mouth.
Let's see if we can hear the audience on this outro. Oh, you got baby dedications coming up? Is that what's happening?
Anybody can make that declaration here.
That was a cool transition. Made it work.
Come on, let's sing this out together. We sing. Jesus, our redemption, our salvation is in
Let's look at their
His
stats for nerds.
blood. Jesus,
Yeah, so they're underneath. They're good.
light of heaven,
Usually you want to be like 6.
forever, His kingdom come.
While I'm praying, if you just want to, in your own
Anyways, yeah, man. I mean, your recorded stuff there of the sermon looked great. I mean, your settings seem dialed in on camera stuff. I mean, I think you guys are doing a great job. So really appreciate the super chat and supporting the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, I just want to say a quick thank you to anyone that uses any of the links that I put in the descriptions or any of the products, that I've reviewed. I really try to be very particular about, the stuff that I'm saying, hey, this has worked for us. And hopefully if you watch this channel, you realize like I'm somebody who is literally in the thick of it week in and week out, trying to do the best we can with the budget that we've got. And hopefully me sharing stuff, you guys can trust me. And it's stuff that we're actually using. Now, if it's not something we're going to use, then I try to just make sure and let you know that like for us, this isn't a fit. Doesn't mean it's not a fit for your church. But that really does help support the channel because, I am full-time here at the church and doing this whole YouTube journey. It's definitely a time investment away from the family. And it's a blessing, though, for my family, the way that you guys have supported. So thank you. I just wanted to say that. Let's dive into a few more live stream reviews, maybe 20 more minutes. I don't usually go this long, but you know what? We're just having fun today. So why not? Let's keep it going. Thank you guys for all of you who did super chat. Now we're into the plebes, the lessers of the submissions. No, that's not true. Just the ones who didn't super chat. But it's not too late to do that if you want to. So let me go ahead and pull up our next live stream review. This is Church at the Bridge. And let me see if I can find their info and kind of share some stuff here. Yeah. Here we go. They're using light keys, source 4 power lights, some stuff about lighting. They've got 3 JVC GY-HM790Us, a Sony ZV-E10. We'd like to use as a mobile camera, but cannot get the imaging to match with the 3 cameras. Okay, yeah, and that's tough sometimes. So let's see, especially with these are more camcorder style, broadcast cameras, and then throwing that ZV-E10 in there might be a little tough. Here we go. Volume is all the way up. Something happened and there was signal cutting it out. Hopefully they get her vocal up once we get going here. So we've been on this side shot for a while. You got 3 cams. I would start on a wide shot. Let's go. Yeah, tough to hear vocals on this one. Let's go forward in the songs. Drums I'm hearing in my right ear mostly. You guys hearing that? Vocals I'm hearing more in my left ear. So I wouldn't, snare I wouldn't pan. Yeah, overall it's not as loud as maybe I would want it to be. But I'm hearing overdrivenness in the vocals, even with the overall volume of the mix not being loud enough. Sounds like the vocals are clipping. I wonder if it's wireless. And then you're battling overexposed on these older cameras. I would raise that camera up a little bit if you can, get a taller tripod, especially you got the tallest people that come stand right in front, right? Makes it a little tough. Band's getting into it though, I like it. Church is worshiping. I don't see a guitarist. And just try to match your cuts for when the song is changing, you're hitting a bridge, you're going to an instrumental. Try to be more intentional about it. So let's just quickly look at the preaching time.
I'm ready. And friends, peace.
Yeah, that looks pretty good. A little oversaturated maybe on these cameras, especially with that blue. Maybe not.
That what comes your way
Possibly.
Cannot knock you
Yeah,
down.
I
It
wonder
can't
about
destroy you.
what
Why?
resolution we're
Because the
actually
peace of
sending from
God
these
is
cameras.
not
We're
powerless
in
your
HD,
life.
but I wonder if they're actually HD cameras. So, all right, there you go. Thanks for submitting. Appreciate you. I'm going to pull up our next live stream review here. Let me delete that one. Yes. How's everybody's Friday going? Everybody doing good? Okay, we got you here. Grace Community Church is up next. They are running an Avantis front of house with Dante to a broadcast machine running Pro Tools. All Blackmagic cameras except for a couple of Stage A6000s. So let's pull up their live stream. I really like this look. Like, this is inspiring me for our pre-service stuff. We're counting down into the pre-show. Yeah.
Good morning, Grace Community Church. How are you guys doing?
I
today?
like
Happy
this.
Easter.
You got the little borders going on with the scrolling text. That's a cool vibe. The countdown going. It's cohesive. What's going on on the screens and the slides. You got your little newscaster branded microphones. That's cool.
And then just like how, I mean, what we're
He's in the worship team because he's got in-ears on.
Yeah, let's
so
go.
cool.
Indeed.
Indeed.
That's what you're supposed to say when you say that.
I didn't know
He is
that.
risen
Now I
indeed.
do.
That's right.
I think it's
She
the,
didn't
like,
grow up in
I don't
church.
know, I came from.
All right, let's go. Let's see how this transition happens. You added your black bars. Oh!
Good morning, Grace. Happy
Watch this.
Well, good morning, Grace.
That was pretty legit. I like it.
Happy Resurrection Sunday. Jesus says in John, I am the resurrection and I am the life. So let's come together this morning and lift up the name of the King of Kings.
It sounds a little like too much room mics. I hear a lot of bass guitar, but not like, it's like a little too much audience mic-ish.
Amen. Let's worship him. We sing. There's a light that shines with hope and grace fills the sky. With new mercy each day we're alive.
Anybody else? A lot of bass guitar there. Sounds good. Just pretty hot.
There's a joy that overwhelms our souls 'cause we know our God is in control. Let your favor fall at Jesus. This is the day that the
I
Lord
like it.
has made.
Do you see how they did that though? It changed right as they go into the chorus to this moving shot, giving some energy.
We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. Rejoice, rejoice, and be glad in it. Rejoice, rejoice, and be glad in it.
So on that piano one, it feels a little isolated to me. Like if this were me, I would put the camera on the other side of the piano keys, facing out towards the audience and the other band members. And I'd probably just focus more like hands. She seems pretty focused on what she's doing and maybe not as engaging on camera. So that's what I would do. And you might have that room sound because you're trying to mic these horn sections and bleed maybe. Oh, she was engaging there. Band is salty. All right, so you are doing iMag in the room on the sides there, and that's replicating. Let's go. Yeah. I would change shots more frequently on this instrumental. I mean, that camera is okay on your electric guitarist. I don't know. It's not my favorite. Let's see if I can pop around to it again. It feels a little like I'm watching Brian at Worship Tutorials do like a behind the scenes camera of him. Like, it doesn't feel like something that should be on iMag. I don't know. It's okay. I like that you can see his face and his playing. I know why you did it like that. And then the camera's kind of hidden. So I like the way you utilize the slider on that. See, the bass guitar being off to the side, kind of pointed up, that looks a little better to me. It looks like you're maybe a little limited on space there. But I love this front roamer cam. I wonder how that affects your in-room experience, if it's a bother to people or not. Maybe they're kind of hidden there at the front. But it's a cool shot. There you go. You got some wide stuff going. Even with your house lights on a little bit dim, you still can't really see them. So I wonder if you could... That's that lighting for in-room versus lighting for the live stream. I know it's probably appears different in the room. All right. That is my thoughts for you guys for Grace Montrose.org. All right. We have time for one final live stream. And while I get that pulled up, just looking through my notes here, see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. You know what, guys? This is my live stream, and I feel like ending it. I've been on here for 2 hours and 23 minutes. If you want your live stream reviewed, and we didn't get to it on today's live stream review session, you can always reach out and schedule a one-on-one Zoom call with me where we can really dive into your systems and your setups, and maybe I can give you some feedback one-on-one that way. There's a link in the description, I think, and if not, just head over to my website, rylandrussell.com. And if you are somebody who's stuck with us for a long time, why not hit the like button on this video, on the YouTube video? That would be helpful, so it goes out to more followers. And if you aren't subscribed, you haven't been able to chat this whole time. So hit that subscribe button. I've got some fun stuff. We're filming 2 tech tours this coming week, and I'm excited to release those over the weeks to come. We've got Philo that I'll be at. If you're there, come by and say hi. Where I don't know where I'll be. It's a large campus, but if you see me running around with my hat on backwards, just come and introduce yourself. So I would love to get to know any of you that are out there that maybe have gleaned something helpful from the channel. It's just super encouraging to know that, like, I'm not just wasting my time and throwing things out there into the void that doesn't, help anyone. So, yeah, I'm excited for this coming weekend. It's going to be a great week at church. And I hope that you guys have amazing services, that God shows up and moves in awesome ways. And it's like I say at the end of every single video, remember, guys, we can do a lot of great things. Let's do it all for God's glory. We'll see you in the next one.